Hello, I am Michael Marsh. Welcome to the program dedicated to reestablishing constitutional government, first in Oregon and then in the United States. But in order to have a constitutional government, we need people in office that will uphold the Constitution. Because it's already on the books, but a lot of our elected officials either have never read it or they ignore it. So for the next few months, I'll be doing a lot of programs with people that are running for office, and especially people that I believe that will honor their oath to uphold the Constitution. And one of these people is Raymond Baldwin, who is the Constitution Party candidate for 5th Congressional District of Oregon. Raymond, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I was born in Hillsboro, Oregon in 1949. I've lived in Oregon most of my life. I have 4 older brothers and 2 younger brothers and 2 younger sisters. I went to North Marion High School, went to Sunnyside Grade School. I love to play football and wrestle, and let's see, I went to Oregon College of Education because I was planning on being a teacher, and then my wife got pregnant, so I revamped that. I've been a boomman, that's a guy who rafts logs, and sheet metal. I was working in plywood mills, and I was a journeyman carpenter for 10 years, and I've been a general contractor for the last 30 years. In that time, the most important thing I've done is raise my 9 children, and I guess if you were to ask me one reason why I'm running, the reason would be that, I have 10 grandchildren, and I want to see them grow up in freedom. And I believe that we're on the wrong course, and that the leaders that we have in the House that are taking us in the wrong course need to be replaced, and Kurt Schrader's certainly one of those. And we need to stand up against all this tyranny. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Good. There's a lot of issues that I want to talk about. For instance, what's going on in Iraq right now. We sent troops there, but we never actually won the war, and we pulled out. What should be our response today? So far, Obama's talked. They haven't really said anything. Kurt Schrader isn't doing anything. What should the response be?
Okay, well, today is the 17th, which is Tuesday the 17th, and so the Sunni Muslims, as I understand, coming out of Syria, have been on a rampage for 5 days. In that period of time, they've killed over 2,700 people, beheading many of them, and any of the guard, any of the military that surrendered were then shoveled off to ditches and killed. So. If I were the president, which I'm not, I would definitely have my drones and my satellites in motion, and I believe he's moving the aircraft carriers into the area, which I think is a good thing. I think that these people need to be destroyed, not just or brought to justice. I saw a cartoon over the weekend. It was the How to Train a Dragon, and the main character, the main character was this boy, and the father told him, he says, well, I'll go and get the enemy, and I'll talk to him, and everything will be just fine, and we won't have to have a war. And his father said, look, you people who kill unreasonably cannot be reasoned with. So, unfortunately, we have a totally different perspective, because we live in America where we can say what we want, feel what we want, do what we want. Whereas over there, they don't have that freedom, and so because of that, it's really a dark world. As far as I'm concerned, it's the new Iron Curtain because of the jihads.
Okay, we went in there, and we went into Afghanistan, and we've had a lot of battles between, ever since we've joined the United Nations, the United States has been in pretty much a constant state of war. But the last time a war was declared was in 1941, in
Correct.
December. And the Constitution says Congress shall declare war. Should we start going back to that, or should we allow the president to arbitrarily decide how to use our military? For instance, he gave weapons to Al-Qaeda in Syria. Yeah. Should that be allowed?
Well, obviously, it shouldn't be allowed, and they shouldn't be allowed to run guns. There's so many issues that President Obama should be impeached on. And, of course, running guns to Al-Qaeda or running guns to the Mexican gun cartels doesn't really matter. It's wrong, it's criminal, and they should be prosecuted. And the fact that his administration just ignores Congress and that people are held in contempt, but yet they don't do anything. The IRS coming up with, oh, somehow we erased the emails off of a hard drive. They just disappeared. Well, you know, I don't think that would stand up in any court in the land.
Yeah, we couldn't do that to the IRS. We couldn't say we've lost our.
We lost all of our taxes this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a form of fascism that we're going through right now, and that is where whoever has their political point of view wants to force that upon you, forcing it on you, not giving you a freedom to choose. That's fascism. So we have fascism all throughout the Middle East. Right now, we do have a situation where the Sunnis and the Shiites are fighting each other again. Should we get in the middle of that? Have we wasted the last 13 years trying to bring peace to the world? Well, I think we brought an example of what our boys can do and what we're capable of. Unfortunately, they're not rewarded as they should be because of the obvious scandals in the Veterans Administration, but then it seems that there's a scandal in just about every government agency these days.
Speaking of every government agency, and we'll go back to the IRS in a bit and the Veterans Association in a bit, but most federal agencies today have their own SWAT team or paramilitary organization. Is that a good idea? And as a congressman, would you continue funding for these?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm for funding taxpayers. I would take that money and put that in the Civil Defense Fund and find tax exemptions for those who buy and own guns, because that is the civil defense of this nation. And we cannot depend on traitors to the Constitution to protect our borders. Obviously that's true, and it's already been shown. Yeah. Obviously we cannot expect them to support our military when they come home, or to support a military budget that's sufficient to fight the evil that we're going to be confronted with in the next 48 months. So no, I do not, I don't think that they're competent. I don't think that they're doing a good job. And no, I would not support money for paramilitary organizations in each and every government agency. Nix.
Good. After World War, after 9/11 in 2001, the Congress, both Democrat and Republican Party, they put together an apparatus, the Patriot Act, the Department of Homeland Security, the National Transportation Agency, TSA, the National ID Act. Were these good ideas? Should we keep them? Is it time to take a look at them, maybe abolish them, or where do you stand on all this police state?
Well, that's a
mentality?
multi-headed dragon that you just put
Yeah.
out there. Okay, let's start with Homeland Security. Homeland Security is not transparent enough for the people to even trust. So the people of the United States, I feel, as I do, that there's not enough transparency with government, and Homeland Security has not done its job, neither in disasters, nor would it be able to do its job in the event of a nuclear war or in the event of an invasion. We do not have, in my estimations, the proper judgments that need to be made in order to secure the safety of the American people. And all the wrong decisions are made almost on a perfect wrong basis. If you want to reiterate some more of the points of your question.
Okay. I take it you'd like to see Department of Homeland Security go away?
Well, we need a civil defense
Yeah.
in this country. The question is that the civil defense, or is that just a part of the New World Order?
Yeah.
We need to examine our government very carefully, because it's lying to us constantly. It's creating travesties that we don't need. The issue of not securing the borders is tremendous, particularly at this particular time in our history. And yeah, maybe we have held off the terrorists for a while until now. But look what's going on in the Middle East. Look what's going on in the Ukraine. Now, you can't tell me that this terrorism is not being exported out of the communist world. You've got Russia going into the Ukraine with tanks and rocket launchers this weekend. It's almost in conjunction with the Sunnis coming out of Syria attacking in their 5-day blitzkrieg of northern Iraq. So to me, I see that all in conjunction. And now that they've shut off the oil to the Ukraine, that's going to hurt Europe. So you're going to see these issues flare up, and unfortunately, I don't think you're going to see the proper answers.
Yeah. And, some people believe that Obama is deliberately destroying America. Some people just think he's incompetent. But either way, should he be there? If you're elected, would you elect?
Well, I already said that. I would support a impeachment. And while we're on that issue, you had also mentioned Obamacare, as well as Homeland Security. Obamacare, to me, is just a centralizing of the cattle.
Yeah.
It's a means of putting the tag in our ears so we can have this national ID. Well, we've already got licenses, and not that that means anything in Oregon, because Kitzhaber likes to give them people without licenses, without citizenship licenses. But it's not just him. It's the Democratic Party of the state of Oregon. So we have
Democratic Party nationwide, actually.
Well, we have a really bad problem with progressivism here. Progressivism, people don't understand when you say progressive. What that means is you're communist, but you're just doing it slowly. You're bringing socialism in slowly. They don't realize that this is a republic based on a constitution that gives individuals their rights, sovereign rights. So I'm a double sovereign, because I'm a sovereign of the state of Oregon. I'm a sovereign of the United States of America. That gives me rights. That doesn't put the government over me. That puts the government under me. I stand on the Constitution, and the government's under that. And that's the way every American needs to think, and that's the way we need to believe, because that's the way our forefathers set up for us, and that's why we have a Constitution and a Bill of Rights.
Now, earlier you mentioned the IRS, who magically lost 2 years worth of emails, and nobody's going to jail, which is a major problem with our federal government. Nobody goes to jail no matter what they do.
There's no accountability. Yeah. There's no accountability on the federal level, and in the state of Oregon, there's no accountability either. If you even take the state of Oregon, for example, in the last legislative session, they had bill after bill on government corruption, and it passed through the House, even through the joint chairs. But when it got to Senator Przanski's committee, it just got pigeonholed. Okay, so no more checks and balances on government. No, not in Oregon, and certainly not at the federal level either.
So what would you do to bring about some accountability?
Well, first thing I'd like to do is close some of those loopholes for congressmen. I'd like to make it illegal for congressmen to have insider trading, because insider trading leads to insider business deals, which is not fair. And if you take the profit out of being a congressman, well, then maybe we'll get some people who care about the Constitution instead of how to get rich. I mean, these guys go to Congress and they don't have any money. I don't have any money. I'm not going to say that I'm a rich guy. You know, I raised 9 kids, so I'm here because this is where I need to be, because I'm going to stand up and shout out the Constitution and my rights, and I'm going to stand strong to my beliefs. You said you were going to ask me about abortion. It's an issue that most people will shy away from, most people do not want to talk about, and it's not an issue that I see as a forerunning problem in our country right now, other than the fact that it's an ethical and moral issue. And the fact that the Constitution says we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which used to be the ownership of property until they changed it. So life is pretty important, and I had the misfortune of watching this little program this week. I was on TV, and it was all about an abortion and the suction tube. They showed it going in there, and the baby trying to move around, trying to escape from the suction tube, and screaming, a silent scream with his mouth open. And he's terrified and squirming around, trying to keep from getting sucked down the tube. I had to change the channel. I couldn't watch it. But to me, that little baby, 6 weeks old, was alive, conscious, able to make decisions to move out of the way, knew that he was in danger, or she, whatever it was. And it's a terrible travesty, and taxpayers should not be putting money behind it. As for an individual's right to choose, I believe that we all have a right to choose good or evil, and that those choices need to be made available. So, do I believe that a woman should be able to kill her child? No, I don't believe that she should. But if she does, then that sin is upon her, and the public should not be paying for that sin.
That's what I'm really going to ask.
And so, because we should not have to be part of that. Let's talk about freedom of speech a little bit, because we're not getting, let's take the homosexual community, for example. If the homosexual community had a law that came out and said, we're going to kill all homosexuals, well, I'm going to stand with the homosexuals, because you're not going to kill people for whatever their choices are like that, okay? But I'm the kind of guy that believes that everybody has rights, and that if we take care of the individual, that the communities will take care of themselves. If we try and solve our individual problems using community, then what do you got? You got Orson Welles' 1984. You got social workers coming into every household, taking children that shouldn't be taken. We have an epidemic in this country of government coming into homes without warrants and taking people's children with no legal process.
That's one of the things I was going to ask also, is because I've been dealing with that problem for a long time. I've been doing programs, and a lot of it's state, and a lot of it's federal money too. And personally, I believe that the only reason they're talking about gay marriage is because they're trying to justify the government coming into people's home and kidnapping the children. And with homosexuals, they can't create children, so they're all government-created families. They're not biological families. Would you?
Well, let me preface it with this, okay? In the last legislative session, I went there, and my effort was to try and slow some of that business down, to look at DHS from the inside and see why there is so much corruption going on there. And so what my investigation led me to was that yes, in fact, there are factions making vast profits off of the misery of the system that's going on. And what I was told by the Republican majority leader was that they received a letter from the Democratic caucus lawyer that said, based on the Social Security law that says in the best interest of the child, we are not able to allow any state agencies, government, or state elected officials or attorneys or anyone to look into the internal affairs of the Department of Human Resources.
Wow.
Now, if you look at, there was a study done at Columbia University, and they used CPS, Children Protective Service records nationwide, and what they found was that they were wrong 72% of the time, that the children should never have been taken. So, you know, you can, I can understand where they're going to stay strong with, well, we're going to err on the side of caution. But as you know, oftentimes they've had disasters
Yeah.
with other situations that were obvious that they should have taken care of and didn't. And then there are other situations where there was never a problem to begin with, but they made a big problem. So these travesties are going on, and they're violations of human rights, they're violations of the United Nations law even, including our Constitution. So people need to be aware that how deep the government goes. And when you're talking about government, let's not leave the schools out, because those are educating our children, and I've had to put my children through all those. I've sat on site councils for the junior high and the grade school, you know, and so I know the inner workings of the school and what's going on. And Common Core now has come in, and it's not a good thing. Some of my opponents, the Republican and Democratic candidates, they support states' rights over local rights, local decision making. So, for myself, I believe, as the Constitution states, that everything should be brought down to the smallest local level, and that authority be given to the people at the local level. So that's my philosophies basically. And if you take care of the individual, like I said, if you take care of the individual, then the group will be fine. If you take care of the group, there's always going to be some that are left out.
Yeah. Now, the United States is $17 trillion in debt. So I'm assuming that you'd be willing to cut, okay, Planned Parenthood gets $600 million a year, and probably hundreds of millions of dollars go to each state for the kidnapping of children. I take it you're going
How much?
hundreds of millions
Hundreds
each
of,
state.
yes, okay, yes.
Each
yes,
state.
Thank you.
I mean, even Oregon,
Yeah.
they're getting over $100 million. And we're a small state.
Yeah.
So I can imagine what California and New York and these states are getting. Would you be for
I would
ending all
outlaw
that?
juvenile courts, period. Just to get done with them. Be done with the juvenile courts. They're illegal. So get rid of them. You started to talk about the national debt. Let's talk about the national debt. The national debt is being created by idiots that are got offshore accounts that are gleaning us for everything that they can get. After all, we're marketable, right? So we're marketed by the government, we're marketed by industry, we're marketed by advertising. So, but you ask about this deficit. Okay, right now we're going through inflation. Everybody knows if you're going to the store, you're paying more for gas, you're paying more for bread. So what's going on? Well, the squeeze is coming. And you're paying more for electricity too, especially in the winter.
Yeah.
And these kinds of problems could be eliminated for Americans, but these are what I call blood-sucking monopolies. And so they don't want to move forward in the 21st century. They want to continue to suck the blood because their pockets are getting fat. So how do we solve this? How do we solve this debt problem? Okay, well, the Singapore and Hong Kong have both instituted a 1% tax on their stock markets. We here don't charge stock markets anything. We have governments come in from other countries and are buying up strategic companies here. Also, they invest in our stock market and take their profits home. So what I say is, let's put a 2% tax on every put and call, every treasury bond, every Wall Street transaction that goes down, which will generate over $3 trillion a year, which would get us out of debt within a couple of years, which is within a few years. And that has to be tied to getting rid of the 16th Amendment, which is getting rid of income tax, taxing people for their labor, and putting government back on the shoulders of commerce, on the shoulders of business, which is where it should be. And if it were, we'd have a much smaller government.
Okay, we've got a little over a minute. Anything left you want to say in this program that you haven't said yet?
Well, I guess what I would say is, you know, I'm just a carpenter, contractor, hard-working guy with a bunch of kids that wants to make sure that this Constitution stays around for a few more generations. I'm someone who, you know, I did get a college education from Portland State University. I didn't get the certificate in Middle East Studies because I didn't finish my Arabic. Mabsut alhamdulillah. But I want to represent the people, and I think that I can better represent them because I have an idea of what they need. And I want to bring it home. Home for our families, home for our vets.
And in the next program, we'll talk more about our vets and more about getting rid of the 16th Amendment and getting rid of a lot of these programs that, you know, the government has a legitimate...
We're offline, aren't we?
Not yet. But there is a legitimate function for government, but they're not... Our current government is outside of that legitimacy.
They're overstepping their boundaries in every area. In commerce, you know, in business, in every area of our lives, we are over-governed, over-policed, and yet we allow more freedom to foreigners than any country in the world. And I think that's wonderful, but for some reason our generosity is not spreading throughout the world.
Yeah, and we're not so nice to ourselves. Okay, we're done. Thanks.
Yeah.